Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Alistair Gunn. I'm the Director of the Glasgow City Innovation District. Welcome to this this conference today, where we'll be talking about the work that we're doing within the Glasgow City Innovation District, focusing in and around the climate neutral aspect of that. Before we kind of pass over to my colleague, Roddy Yar, just like to kind of give you an oversight of today's session. I'll be giving an overview of the Innovation District, what we're developing. I'll then pass over to Roddy, and after that, then we shall be taking some questions and answers. So if you have any questions, please do put some questions into the chat. So just really kind of introducing the Glasgow City Innovation District. We are Glasgow's and Scotland's kind of first innovation district that was created 4 years ago. It's a collaboration with 5 partners. One of those being the Glasgow City Council, one of those being the University of Strathclyde and the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and also Scotland's Economic Agency. Our vision and focus is for the district is for it to be the global hub for entrepreneurship, innovation and collaboration in the city. This picture kind of provides you an insight into the size of the district. The district doesn't take in the whole of the city. It so happens that within Glasgow we have another 2 innovation districts, one out towards Glasgow Airport and one out to the west of the city. But this kind of, the Glasgow City Innovation District kind of takes in the centre of the city. And as you will see, that feeds through the centre. And that's a key aspect to the climate neutral district that we're developing. It is great to be a member of the Global Business District's Innovation Club, and in addition to the Global Business District's Innovation Club, we're also members of the IASP, the UK Innovation Districts Group in the UK, which is kind of funded from the UK government, and also UK Science Parks Association. This just kind of gives you a wider kind of insight into some of the core organisations that are within the city centre. All of these organisations are involved somewhere in amongst the development of innovation, technology development, and also kind of research, academic research. This kind of, as I say, kind of just shows a wider viewpoint of the innovation corridor that has been created across Glasgow as we speak. And this builds upon the Glasgow's heritage from being a city of engineering and design, and as we move forward, it's evolving into a city of technology innovation. With all great kind of districts, place development is a key aspect, and as we speak, we have many property developments that are taking place in around the kind of city centre. This is just a small snapshot of some of the work that's kind of going on, and that includes the attraction of creating new accommodation for the community, for people to live, also for students to locate, and also for businesses to create their own location. At the core of what we're doing is that we have an innovation ecosystem whereby we bring a range of UK funded and international funded technology business support organizations, and they are working across many different industries, for the likes of space and the likes of renewables, right through to also kind of the photonics, as well as 5G. And we're quite fortunate that within our district, we have many other professional organizations who are also support the development of the district, but also the helping businesses kind of grow. Kind of finally, before I pass on to Roddy, we are also the first city within Scotland and also the UK to have its own dedicated kind of portal and platform to highlight the businesses that are across the city who are innovating and also creating new products and technology. This platform is open for everybody to look at. If you go to Invest Glasgow, you'll be able to see all the different businesses that we have in and amongst the city. And that is also provides an opportunity for investors who are looking to invest in new companies. So without further ado, I'd like to also then kind of hand over to Roddy, who will talk about the Climate Neutral Innovation District.
Thanks, Alistair. Good afternoon, everyone. I will share my screen. Hopefully you can see slideshow mode. I can't see anyone, so I'm assuming everyone's all right.
All good.
Okay, thanks, Alistair. Yeah, good afternoon. I've got about 20 to 25 minutes to introduce you to the concept and the work that we're doing around the creation of a climate neutral innovation district in Glasgow city centre. By way of introduction, I'm the executive lead for sustainability at the university. I have responsibility for all of the operational sustainability elements of the university's assets, the built environment mostly, but also thinking about the natural environment across all of our research and teaching facilities in West Central Scotland. I work with a team called Sustainable Strathclyde, and we're not academic colleagues, we are professional experts. So we come at this very much from a practical point of view in response to the climate emergency that was declared in the UK and Scotland in summer of 2019, and of course internationally, because climate change is a major societal threat in that sense. But also thinking more positively, it is an opportunity for us to create a fantastic place, fantastic infrastructure that is more sustainable and that enables us to operate, live, work, and enjoy the place that we currently occupy, in this case in Glasgow and the region. So I'm going to present the concept to you today and describe what that is. There are a few case studies, the Innovation District, but also Alistair referred to another Innovation District west of Glasgow. So I'll briefly describe what we've been doing there, because that is our first energy carbon neutral building in operation out of the Manufacturing Innovation District for Scotland. I've been here for 7 years, and when I first arrived in 2015 at the University of Strathclyde, I very quickly worked out that in order to drive real change, we need a really ambitious and innovative approach, and one that is very much focused around collaboration and relationship building and partnering with like-minded organizations. And Alistair presented a number of organizations and businesses in and around the region. And that is very much our approach, is to work and collaborate with like-minded organizations. And it's no different for sustainability. And that's where my work is very much focused on building support, building understanding, building capacity at scale across the city and region now, as well as within the university community, of course, with our staff and our students and internal stakeholders. So we adopt a very open door policy, and we try and work collegiately with as many organizations as we can. And maybe just a small reflection on why universities are helpful in that regard, because I see universities as enablers, so to speak, facilitators, neutral facilitators of climate action and sustainability responses, because we do have real expertise, professionally and academically. We have access to new ideas from our students. We have a large estate portfolio of built environment, as well as natural resources. We use a lot of energy because we're an energy intensive research and teaching university. But we're vested in our communities, we're vested in our places, and we have a very strong covenant in that regard, as well as a strong financial basis as well. And we do have good links to industry, to community, to local and national government. And with that, we bring innovation and collaboration. And I think most importantly, perhaps in some respects, is the ability to deliver large infrastructure projects. And that's what we do. That's our bread and butter on my side of the house, if you like, in terms of the area that I work in. So we have a vision to create what we call climate neutral districts across all of our operating assets. And in 2020, I developed the idea of climate neutral districts, which basically means any asset will be energy carbon neutral in operation, and very much adapted to the changing climate, responding to aspects like more intense rainfall, overheating, flooding, and business continuity issues that go around that in terms of, for instance, transport infrastructure, because we have 25,000 students at the university, a lot of whom live locally or live within the metropolitan area and rely on a strong transport infrastructure. So very much thinking about a systems approach to the work that we do across all of our operating assets. And we have 10 projects within that vision, and you can see the sort of the names of those projects. Number one is the Innovation District. That's our biggest project because the university is in the very centre of Glasgow City. But we have lots of other assets as well, and I'll describe a few of those as we go through. And you can see the nature of what we're thinking about. It is about infrastructure. It is about understanding our impact, responding to that across all of our different areas of operation. That includes our supply chain, how we consolidate goods in the city, how we manage our resources in terms of a circular economy, a different approach to how we manage resources, and then of course monitoring and measuring and reporting our progress. So Alistair showed you the map of the Innovation District, and this is right in the heart of Glasgow. And Alistair referred to the River Clyde, and the River Clyde is a massive resource of energy for the city, as well as being a major natural resource for the city. So we very much see the river as being an important asset in providing heat for the city. The catchment of the River Clyde is 3,250 square kilometres, and that's got a lot of energy contained within it. The river at the Clyde, in Glasgow, also happens to be tidal. So we have access to a huge resource there in terms of ambient energy, and we seek to capture that energy and bring that into the district to deliver affordable heat for the businesses and organisations in that are clustering together in this 170 hectare area in the very centre of Glasgow. So what is a climate neutral innovation district? I think that this is the main sort of concept slide that I think is important, and it isn't the importance of this is that it's a whole systems approach. So it thinks about climate mitigation, i.e., how do we reduce our emissions around the amount of heat that we use? And in Glasgow, in Scotland, one of our biggest impacts is the amount of gas that we burn to generate heat in our buildings. So that's a massive issue for the city. It also has an air quality issue attached to it. We also need power because we run a lot of pumps, we run a lot of lighting to operate our buildings. And of course, the way that Scotland is starting to move towards decarbonisation is to electrify heat and power. So we're going to need more electricity, and that electricity has to be affordable, and it has to be clean, and it has to be generated locally and used locally. And that applies to transport as well. We want to electrify our transport, whether that's a bus or a train or a water taxi. We had a conversation this morning with a company who are developing water taxis. And of course, climate resilience and our communities are hugely important to us. So you'll see on this diagram, I've got pointed out some of the residential areas that are around the innovation district. And we have a very dense housing stock in and around the innovation district. And we need to make that housing stock very more energy efficient, but we also have to give the occupants of that housing stock access to affordable heat and power, as well as the businesses and organizations in the innovation district. So really what we're taking here is a systems approach to these issues and trying to join all of the dots together to deliver infrastructure that enables that transition. So in terms of the policy and funding horizon, this is a rather dull and dry slide, but it is really important because it sets out the framework that will enable the delivery of a lot of this infrastructure and a lot of the funding that goes around the transition away from a fossil fuel-based economy into a much more sustainable and renewable economy. So without going into any detail here, we very much think about what the policy levers are for this work and respond to those. So the vision that we've created here is completely aligned with these policies and the funding that's coming forward, be that public or indeed private sector investments. And I think by creating a strong vision, what we've been able to do is start to attract a conversation around this aspect and let the market and let our stakeholders see that we have a direction of travel and that we have a very detailed knowledge base about how we will actually deliver some of the changes that we need to make here. And it is a systems-based approach. It isn't just heat or power or transport or adaptation. It's all of those joined together so that when we deliver infrastructure, we deliver multiple services at the same time as we improve that infrastructure. So just a bit of a context, and I'm sure that policy and funding horizon will be something that the members of the club will be thinking about as well. So some of the considerations that we have here as we do this work, and the picture on the left is our district heating scheme that we installed in 2018. And we learned a lot around that project. I was the project sponsor for that infrastructure. That was a £20 million investment in a district heating network in the city to heat university buildings, digging up the streets of Glasgow and disrupting, but keeping the campus and the university operational and keeping the city operational was very much part of that project delivery. So we need to do things quickly. We need to do them at scale now. And we can only do that if we share the ambition and the vision that we've got and bring in the funding to make it happen. We need a really responsive supply chain and businesses that can respond to meet this challenge and the skills and materials needed to make it happen. So again, this is a systems approach. At that scale, we have to think about how we operationalize the vision, to program the vision and make it deliverable and investable. So the slide on the right hand side here is the investment prospectus for Glasgow, and the vision that we've been able to develop here has been adopted by the city and the region as an investment portfolio project, which is really exciting for this project. A little daunting as well, because we obviously have to deliver this now. But that shows the nature of this kind of collaboration. We've been able to build capacity and support from the work that we've done. Again, so just some examples of what this, the heating side of this project looks like. That this is the district heating network at the university. And if you imagine this mirrored across the rest of the city, this is what we're going to have to do to enable the network to be formed that is able to bring heat from the Clyde, heat from waste heat from industry along the Clyde and in the city, and create that network that allows multiple services to be installed in the city. And if you think about the infrastructure in the city, it's old. It's been updated, of course, through time, but it needs a radical update and a radical upgrade. And that's an investment opportunity in itself. So, at the start, it might seem a bit kind of doom and gloom about sustainability and climate issues on the planetary scale, but there is an investment portfolio here that creates green growth and green skills around this agenda and moves that issue forward. So I think we need to be mindful of that as we develop these projects. At the university, we're doing our best to generate more of our own renewable electricity. We're installing more and more rooftop solar photovoltaics. And we're also working on large-scale systems like a ground array at one of our assets in partnership with the Scottish Water Company. So we do think about generating more of our own power, more of our own energy, and using it locally within our buildings, because that protects us from market forces, which is an important aspect right now with an energy crisis. So just a few case studies, and first of all, the Climate Neutral Innovation District, which is 100% renewable heat, power, transport, adaptation and well-being plan for our community, which is a bit of a mouthful, but hopefully what I've kind of explained earlier gives you a sense of how we're seeking to adopt a systems-based approach to this right in the heart of Glasgow. And really what we're doing is developing all of these projects within that ethos. So anything that we do, we think about that system, we think about how it aligns with existing policy, and also how it aligns with what the city's plans are. So any investments that the city's got planned for large-scale land use or urban realm developments, we're working with the city to see how we can embed this concept and this need for deliverability within that planning process. So working with all of the businesses, for instance, the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce is a key stakeholder. The City Council is a key stakeholder. The governance group that sits around sustainability in the city, called Sustainable Glasgow, is a key stakeholder, and indeed a national priority that the government has come out with, called Clyde Mission, is a key stakeholder in this work as well. So again, this is an example of how we're working with like-minded organisations. So what is the work that we've actually done here in the Innovation District? Really that's centered around phase one feasibility study. So working with a design team of experts on the left here to develop the detailed data and evidence base that will enable the market to understand what is actually being thought about here in terms of heat and power and transport, and then sharing all of that learning with the stakeholders on the right so that they can understand this is what's happening in Glasgow city centre. This is the sustainability response to create a climate neutral innovation district, so that the occupants and the users of the space, the clusters of tech companies, for instance, can understand how this work can benefit their business as they grow within this city centre space. And that's been a really helpful partnership model. And I think the innovation here is that we think it's something that everybody should be thinking about, but we've enabled the platform to be created for that conversation to happen. And that's now pivoting more and more into an investment grade proposal a set of common principles that the businesses and organisations in the city are signed up to through the Sustainable Glasgow Green Economy Charter. So there's a commitment now being made based on the work that we've done to moving this agenda forward and starting to really flesh out what this actually means and how it can be realised at a commercial and a contractual level. So what it involves is detailed data and design that informs a heat network, and this is a map of the city, and you can see the River Clyde here, with a number of waste heat producers, not shown here in detail, in and around the base of the main high street that runs north to south within the city. And this is just a snapshot of the phase 1 heat network that we think we can build, providing heat to kind of the retail centre of the city, providing heat to the university, to the hospital at the very top, and to large heat users, and connecting onwards to residential users at key distribution points. And you can see the scale of what we're talking about here. This is in this case, this is several kilometres of pipework, but ultimately we can see there being 35 kilometres of pipework needed to connect the district heating network that we're thinking about developing here. So in real terms, what we think we can achieve is a 93% reduction in emissions around all of these areas of heat, power, transport. We know what the number looks like, and it started off a number of years ago at 210 million, and now it's up to $500 million because of the scale we're talking about in terms of investment. It involves tree planting, it involves roof-mounted solar PV, it involves power generation in and around the city, and it involves a significant amount of benefit to the local population, because we think we can provide affordable heat and power into this space. So quite exciting, large numbers we're talking about, but this is the nature of the scale of things that we need to do to make that change. And we do think it's really important to be socially inclusive in this work. And as a socially progressive university, that's very much in line with what we're thinking, but it's also in line with what the Scottish Government is thinking in terms of a just transition and social inclusion, so that no one gets left behind, so to speak, and we're able to accommodate the needs and ambitions of the whole city and its citizens and businesses. So again, just some examples of what this change might look like. This is our high street at the moment, a very car centric space, not much greenery, and below the ground we don't have the right infrastructure in place to deliver the climate services that we need. So what we're proposing here, with the detailed evidence to back it up that it's deliverable, is the infrastructure, the upgraded infrastructure below the ground, much more greenery in this along this street, and this street is scheduled to be what we call an avenue. So it will have a treatment laid onto it through the City Deal investment, which will make it much more people-centric. Still have a vehicle transport along it, but it'll be prioritised for people, and that will be much more attractive to the businesses that are clustering in the city, with much more focus around health and well-being, and of course the infrastructure to support all of that. We're bringing our students into play here. This is one example from our architecture students who we've used to start to reimagine some of the infrastructure. This is a local water course, the Mullendiner Burn, that runs through the city and is currently culverted, i.e. covered over. So we want to reimagine that space and use that water course as a resource for people to enjoy, which they currently don't see and they can't engage with. So our architecture students and all of our students are able to work on this project and to help us get new ideas and new innovation into the discussion. So the work I'm doing just now is thinking about detailed engineering work on the River Clyde at the bottom of High Street to see where we can deploy water source heat pumps that can tap into the ambient heat that's in the river and bring that heat into the city district. And that's very much work in progress and coming forward to inform the engineering piece and, of course, the investment model that will follow. In terms of governance, just a quick reference to this. This is a project that's It's got a governance process behind it through the Sustainable Glasgow Board, which is chaired by the council leader, Susan Aitken, but it's also shared with the Glasgow City Innovation District Leadership Group, chaired by the university's principal. And that was at phase 1. As we move to phase 2, we'll replicate that governance process. And we also speak with a number of funding bodies to help bring development funding into this space to allow us to inform the business case. And that's been a very helpful model so far. And we propose to take that model forward into the next stages. The second example I've got is at the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland. And this is at another one of the innovation districts that Alistair referred to earlier. This is near Glasgow Airport. And this is a building that we have constructed. It's called the National Manufacturing Institute. It's a digital factory for the future, if you like, looking at advanced manufacturing. And what we've been able to do with a collaboration with Renfrewshire Council, the local authority, and Scottish Water is work with those organisations to make sure that this building is energy carbon neutral in operation. And that means that we've been able to not have a gas heat connection. So there's no fossil fuel heat source. What we do is we tap into the waste heat from the sewage works that's nearby, happens to be nearby, and is a source of energy for us. So we can, working with Renfrewshire Council, we've installed what we call an ambient heat loop, and that is a district heating scheme that uses the waste heat from the sewage works and pumps that water through a plate heat exchanger and heats a network of water that we then amplify the heat and the temperature of that heat locally in the building through a heat pump. And we also have solar PV on the roof of the asset. Now we have 600 kilowatts of solar PV in a rooftop array, and more to come on a ground mounted and in a solar canopy car parking rooftop array as well. So that's helping us to generate our own power for the asset. And as I say, there's no gas connection. So that's our first carbon neutral in operation building. And as we do these buildings, we learn more and more about how this technology can be used and how we improve the design process of any new build or indeed any refurbishment of our buildings we have at the university. So just to come to a conclusion, this work is starting to attract attention. We've won several awards now and lots more work to do, but it's exciting because we're able to share this knowledge with others, and hopefully others learn from this. And of course, we learn from others. There's lots of excellent work going on across the UK and beyond. So we're very keen to learn more about what others are doing as well. So what this means, I think, in short, is having a clear vision is helpful. It provides leadership. It provides clear signals of intent to the market in terms of how we would build out this transition. We're able to bring forward a pipeline, and I think that's really important. So there is an investment opportunity. We absolutely are responding to climate needs and climate issues, particularly energy pricing at the moment. And really what we're also doing is making sure that we do the basics. So back at the ranch, so to speak, in our built environment, we make sure that we improve the fabric of all of our buildings, make them much more energy efficient, and assessing what else we need to do to make our buildings reduce the amount of energy that we need in our buildings and make them climate resilient and much more purposeful for the users of that space, for our students and our staff and our business stakeholders. So in conclusion, I think, again, I think what we all need to be thinking about is what is our vision for our own assets or for those investments that we're making. We do need to think beyond just mitigation. We have to think in a more holistic way and take a whole systems approach. And of course, I think we do need to collaborate at scale, especially where we have opportunities in dense urban centres. That's really important. And of course, the final point is to build that pipeline of climate investments that delivers across all of these areas so that we can move this agenda forward. And I think that's my final slide.
Great, thanks
Thanks.
very much, Roddy. So we've got a couple of questions that have come through, which is fantastic. And if you have any other questions, please do add them into the chat, and we will kind of pick them up over the next couple of minutes. Roddy, the first kind of question that's come through is, will the GCID community be involved in the implementation of the plan?
Yes, that is my hope. We have to involve the community, whatever we mean by community. Businesses particularly, the businesses are already involved through the Glasgow Chamber, but I don't think we should ever be, we need to be much more inclusive, I think. Now that we've got a firmer foundation on what it is we're talking about, we can present that concept a bit more positively to our community of practice, let's call it, well, that's residents, businesses, organizations that are vested in the local area. So yeah, absolutely, that's so important, because that's what drives everything, is that kind of building of capacity, understanding, support. If even just because we'll need planning permission for a lot of this work, we'll be disrupting the city at some stage. So we need to manage that whole process. And we learned that. I learned a lot about that when I was doing the district heating scheme. So we had daily communications with our contracting companies and so forth when we got to the construction stage. But I think before that, we absolutely have to be much more inclusive in thinking about that community engagement and that communications plan.
And also, I guess, one of the things which you've, as part of the development, is you involved the community. You had some local, kind of community groups, as in citizens within the district. I think you kind of met with them, didn't you?
Yeah, we've sat in on, again, trying to align with what the city's doing on regeneration frameworks, a consultation that was happening at city scale. So I was able to sit in and contribute to those discussions with local people, local businesses. So we learned a lot from that in terms of what people want in the city is access to services. They want better transport. They want more nature-based solutions. They just want a better place. Naturally, it's not it's what you would have, I guess, guessed or estimated what people would want for their place where they do business and where they operate, as well as where they live and enjoy. And I'm very much thinking about the river being much more a central part of the city and an underused asset, which I think it is. So that was really helpful, and I think that helped us to get an idea of where the businesses might be thinking about these things.
One question that's come in from Mike. Mike was kind of asking if you could talk a bit more about the strategies that are being developed for last mile distribution in the district.
Yeah, so when as part of the Sustainable Glasgow work, we did a piece of work around last mile delivery, working with academic colleagues. Bringing academic colleagues into the conversation. So we were able to work out what a set of criteria might look like for a last mile consolidation centre, starting at the university, using some of our storage facilities. So we've now got a concept, a project on board where we won't bring any more large lorries or vans into the city. The city centre campus will take those to a central point outside the city boundary and then bring those materials in using e-transport and controlling that relationship. So, and we think that's a model that's replicable across the city at scale, and thinking about how that responds to other services that we might want to co-locate at those last mile delivery points. So it speaks to circular economy. It speaks to much more controlled traffic management in the city. And a better kind of air quality environment and a better space for people to move around safely and more securely in that sense. So yeah, that was a useful piece of work that we've done, and we think that's now included in the local transport strategy that the council is promoting.
That's great, and it's one of the things, one of the characteristics for Glasgow. If anybody's kind of the Glasgow city centre is built on a grid structure very similar to the likes of New York and also kind of San Francisco. So I guess that kind of having that access, that adopting that kind of plan whereby you use outside the city to be able to support the development in managing that kind of lends that kind of a wider sustainable approach.
Yeah, yeah, I think that it's back to that systems approach. What are the different levers that all need to come together to create a fantastic place that is investable, that people want to be located at, and that attracting that inward investment. At the moment, that's an emerging picture, but I think it's clear that businesses, organizations, people want to have security of access to clean energy at a price that's affordable for them, so they're not spending making decisions around whether they heat their homes. These are real societal issues. How they get about the city or even the rural environment, how they get from one side of the city to another. We were talking earlier with a water taxi idea, fantastic way to connect communities either side of a large river like the Clyde out in the west of Glasgow. So yeah, it's that whole piece and just having that awareness to think about joining the dots a bit more coherently.
Yeah, and it was just as Roddy was kind of highlighting there, the company that we were talking to were developing electric kind of electric boats that can support kind of short distance or relatively kind of short distance kind of transport over the water, and which again kind of opens up that kind of wider kind of transport kind of solution for fast transit. One other question that's been asked is, are there any awareness programs for users of the area? I guess that kind of comes down to kind of more of, is there open awareness for the program that's been developed?
We've made a video, but I think there's a lot more that we can do on that side of things, and we should be doing more to make this much more accessible for a range of different audiences. So I think we need to have, town hall, village hall meetings. We need social media coverage. I don't think that's the time. It's the time quite yet to do that because the concept isn't fully formed in terms of the cost or the program. I see a question about program. So at phase 2, the work we're doing now, with the main stakeholders that are involved in this, such as the hospital, Scottish Water, the council, the Wheatley Group, which is the housing organisation for all the social housing around the district, the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce. That's all now coming together in a commitment and a set of principles. And I think once we form that, we've now got, this is the team, the cohesive unit of multi-stakeholders that's involved. And we can now then start to pivot that into a messaging. But that's going to take another year, I think, to do that work. And I think then we'll be in a much better place to work with the market, to work with the commercial arrangements that we need to put in place to then allow this work to be put out to the market and delivered. So I think a year to 18 months of work and procurement and so forth before we're into building anything.
Okay, excellent. So that kind of answers the last question that from our audience, which was again the time plan to complete the project. But again, it's with such a project, it's again including all partners and on that journey and keeping them informed, and certainly within Scotland, and also for Glasgow City, which COP26 was the kind of a core focus for the city. Has there been other developments that have come off the back of that, like COP26, to support this kind of project?
Yeah, I think there's no shortage of sustainability activity in the city and the region. You've got very large infrastructure projects like the Glasgow Metro project, which is a multi-billion-pound metropolitan transport project that's now moving forward through the design stage. You've got the Clyde mission. This is this 30-year regeneration project, which has got net zero, accelerating net zero right at the heart of it. And that's now in the national policy framework. It's in the draft energy strategy. These are projects that perhaps weren't as developed a few years ago, but now they're now being talked about as national priorities. And of course, you've got all of the large-scale wind. You've got large-scale hydro, the Corrie Glass.
Just announced yesterday.
Announced yesterday. You've got lots of developers in the city working on heat networks. I'm hosting an event next week called Feel the Heat Glasgow to bring all of these stakeholders who I have a sense of what they're working on, but I would like to map out all of those projects because I would like to know what those all look like. So they're all coming, 50 people coming to the university on Tuesday to have an open discussion. So I think to the previous point, I think the university is and always will be a neutral facilitator of ideas and innovation. And I think that's no different here. We're reaching out, bringing people together, sharing ideas, and moving that whole discussion forward, which is really exciting. So I think COP26 has been a catalyst for all of this, and it's really helped to have COP26 here in Glasgow back in 21.
Excellent. Well, without further ado, I mean, thank you very much, Roddy, for that insight, and just really opening up a say to our audience today. If anybody is interested in finding out more information about what we are developing across the Glasgow City Innovation District and also Glasgow City, we are more than happy to host a meeting, whether it's in person or online, or even if you're interested in investing or know investors who wish to participate, then we're very much open to that. And we can kind of host you to find out further information. So we'd just like to say thank you very much again today for participating. Thanks for our audience for their questions. And we look forward again to seeing you again at some point soon at one of the other the Innovation Club kind of meetings. Thanks again for today.
Thank you.